What's going on, guys? Blazing Tech. If you want to see how to install a set of component speakers, in my case I use the Polk DB6501 set in a DC4 or DC2 Acura Integra. Step by step, watch the entire video. It is lengthy. You can go ahead and fast forward, but if you watch this video, you're going to have the skills to do this with this exact set of speakers or any new set of component speakers on your Acura Integra. I'm going to be showing you guys how to change the speakers in a absolutely bone stock Acura Integra that comes with the components. So that would be the 6.5 at the bottom, which is the woofer, and the 1-inch tweeter up top. There are a lot of videos explaining how to do this process on the regular Integra that only has the bottom 6.5, so they're not component speakers. But in today's video, it's going to be very long and extensive, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it, and that way it doesn't seem like a daunting task. So if you feel like you need to fast forward the video, don't feel like you're really going to miss out on much. The goal for this video for me is to make this process seem less daunting for anybody that wants to do it but has minimal to no wiring, speaker, any sort of background like that. Last night I did go ahead and do the passenger side. I'll show you how that looks right here. And you can see that I have a new tweeter up here at the top that I had to retrofit to fit in the door card or the door panel. But I'm going to show you guys how to do that. It's pretty simple, and you're not going to really need very many tools. You're going to need a good size Phillips head screwdriver, a small flathead screwdriver, and I used a file to file down my door card. That's definitely optional. If you guys have a Dremel, that'll be much better for you guys. But to explain this just very briefly, to take the door panel off, what we're going to have to do is take off a screw here, a screw here. There should be a plastic screw here for the door panel. Mine is unfortunately missing, but it's kind of a screw and a clip. It's very easy to get out. You just unscrew it, and then with your hands you pull and you get the door panel off. But another thing to keep in mind is that you have some electrical connections right here. So they're the type that you just pull the tab and pull them out. So before you go yanking on that door panel to pull it off, you have to kind of pull this open, and then you pull out this, and then you take off the electrical connector. And instead of removing this from the door, I go ahead and fish it out from the bottom of the panel, and that makes it much easier for me. So as I'm disassembling this, I'm going to kind of talk about what you guys should expect as we go forward. The 6.5 component speakers with the 1-inch tweeter that I decided to go with. Also, you should keep something like this to keep your screws. That way you don't lose anything. You use your small flathead to kind of open this little tab here. Which is a little tricky with your non-dominant hand. There we go, got it. Okay, this exposes a Phillips head screw. Use my Craftsman. So, as I was saying, the 6.5s I decided to go with do have a crossover box or network, however you want to look at that, and that poses problems in where to mount it. Where the most popular video for the Integras that showed how to install these 6.5 component speakers, in the end he didn't even do it. He wanted to wait until he had the factory wiring harness adapter, which is understandable because if you wanted to put your car back to stock, it would be very nice to have that. I know that I'm not going to do that with my car because, to be completely honest with you, I don't think having the stock speakers makes a big difference resale value. Obviously, if you go ahead and chop everything up, then yeah, you're going to affect the resale value, but I think if you add something minimally invasive, that is. Nothing's really gonna go wrong. As you saw, I pulled this out very easily. And again, there should be a screw type clip here that I would unscrew and everything would just come out naturally. I wonder if I can pry this guy out right here. So that's exactly what I wanted to show you guys. I got that out. Remove this connection right here, wiring harness. Goes to the power door lock. And there'll be another one going to the, I like to call this the command center, but there's probably a very technical name for it. So at this point I'm ready to take the door panel off. The two connections that I need to disconnect the same way that I did with this are the tweeter and the, as I like to call it, the command center. And that's where the problems come in if you have just one person. I don't see my dad anywhere around, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and attempt to do this myself. But removing the door panel is not very tricky once you get the hang of it. And it's important not to be scared. I like to start down here. I hope you guys can see this. Right in here. There's a tab, there's a tab. There's another tab. There's another tab. And as you can see, we're just lifting. Kind of setting this. Here's where the tricks come in. I'm holding this. Oh, on the driver's side, there's 3 of those connections, okay? There's one, taking that out. Taking this one out. Alright guys, to be fair, I did have to hop up and grab this box. That way I could use 2 hands to get one of these connections off. But I do have the door panel free. As you can see, voila. It has come off. Let me show you guys the connections that I was talking about here. Let me place this down for a second. So I disconnected this one and this one from the command center, that I like to call it, as well as this one from the tweeter. Now interestingly enough, I also removed this one from the door lock, the power door lock. Interestingly enough, the way that these speakers are running is that the tweeter was tapped into the actual speaker itself. So what we're gonna do is we're essentially gonna delete the 6.5 speaker wiring, so the wires that are going into the 6.5, because it's getting tapped here to the sound. So I have a little box that went with my 6.5 component speakers, and these 2 wires I'm gonna cut, crimp, and that's gonna go into my input. And I'm gonna tape down the wires that are in my 6.5-inch speaker, because we're not gonna need those. Again, this is tapped from there, so that makes the world of difference. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and cut and crimp this, and I'm gonna put this on the input for my splitter box deal. I'll show you how that looks in a second. So now what I'm gonna be doing, guys, is deinstalling or removing the factory tweeter. Very simple, just 2 Phillips head screws, 1, 2. The grill is gonna pop off from the, I guess you could say, the side we see on the door panel. So I'm just gonna remove this, and we're probably never gonna use this again, but I'm gonna hang on to everything just in case. I'm very sorry that there are a lot of loud vehicles passing through my neighborhood at this time in the morning. Very annoying, but I hope that I'm doing you guys justice. And that splitter box I keep telling you guys is the crossover filter. But essentially, I've gone ahead and removed our tweeter, our factory tweeter. So this is probably the scariest bit of the whole install, and that would be retrofitting my tweeter. Again, I'm using the Polk Audio DB6501 kit for my install. If you guys are weary about adding any speakers, I definitely recommend you guys just do the same exact thing as me. That way you know how exactly to do it. But the problem we run into now is that the new tweeter was just a little bit bigger and it didn't fit in the old housing. So since this one already has a grill pre-installed and you can't remove it, take my word for it, I'm not going to open it up right now. Essentially what we have to do is retrofit this thing right here to fit into this hole, which, as you can see, obviously it's not going to go this way, but it's not really going to fit properly. So that's where I'm going to go ahead and file this down in the corners and sort of round it off. That way this will sit and fit in there flush, and then the tweeter will slide right into here. This metal clamp here from my Polk kit, what this does is it sort of clamps on the door panel itself. So before we install it, this screw is very deceiving. It screws in from the black housing itself. So essentially it's gonna go like so. So again, the screw will come in from here. Like that. This is a very steady way to do it. It's very stable. I wouldn't be worried about this coming off or coming loose because A, this isn't a very loose fit once you file it down, and B, this clamp gets on here and clamps onto the door card in a very stable way. But again, you guys are just going to need a file. I'll show you the file that I have. Don't feel like you need to have the same exact file. Anything will work. A Dremel will work. And this is where you guys just need to be patient. And remember, good work, good prep work leads to a great end result. Alright guys, as you can see, I believe the hardest part is over. I've gone ahead and retrofitted the Polk mounting position for the tweeter. Alright everybody, I've made a grave mistake. You see how these holes are kind of off center? These round holes should be on center. That way the speaker will sit flush. The way it was sitting was one part was kind of too far in, one part is kind of too far out, and that's no good. So the way that I need to fix that is to remove the screw. Unfortunately, remove my metal from the back. I didn't want to do this because I had it set really nicely. But we've got to do this properly. But essentially, I'm not going to show you guys how to do this. We're going to waste some film. But these holes need to be very flat. Alright guys, in an effort to make this very easy for you all, I'm going to show you guys how I went ahead and I did this. So I had to take the speaker out because the tweeter, that is, because it wasn't sitting properly, and that's very important to me to have it sit properly. But as you can see, these metal kind of clamps, these 4 clamps, I turned it a little bit clockwise, I think. That way this hole, the speaker wire, can pass through seamlessly without getting caught up on any of these metal claws. As you can see here, I could push it out, push it in without any resistance, and that's what's going to give you guys the clean install of the tweeter, and that way it sits nice and properly and flush. Alright guys, so my dad has joined the fun now. What we're going to go ahead and do is remove the original 6.5-inch speaker, pull that out. And like I said, we're not going to use any of the wiring that's going in there. There's a wire connector there. We're going to use the wire from the tweeter itself. So disinstalling it is going to be very easy. Removing it will be very easy. There's a set, I think about 4 Phillips head screws on here. My dad's going to go ahead and use the drill. There's one. There's the second. 3. And 4. Should just come right out. Remove this connector. And you are done. Paper speaker. Now we're going to grab our new 6.5 and install that. Alright everybody, so what we're going to use is the adapter that came with the Polk Audio speaker, and we're going to go ahead and install that to the factory mounting points of the 6.5-inch speaker. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use the screws that were supplied by Polk Audio on this adapter, and I believe that we are going to have to drill at least 1 or 2 additional holes. That way the speaker is very, very secure on that mount. But I'm not going to show how to do that. I think that that's pretty self-explanatory just by the way that I showed, or that I told you. Alright everybody, we've got the mounting plate all ready to go. We've got the new Polk Audio speaker, nice in a gold bronze color, and we went ahead and connected the speaker wire to the actual speaker itself. Now you do get a lot of extra wire as well, and that will come into play when we're playing with our crossover network. So we're going to go ahead and mount up the speaker, and again, I don't think that I need to show you guys how to do that.
Alright guys, here we have it. Pretty self-explanatory. I went ahead and put the mounting bracket in with the original screws, then I put the Polk Audio new woofer in there with the Polk screws, which are the silver ones, and then I wired it, and the wire is coming out right here. This is the crossover network. What this does is this separates the different frequencies. It takes the input wire from the radio, and the input goes in here, then it splits it electronically so that the lower frequencies go to the subwoofer there, and the higher frequencies are going to go to the tweeter up in the upper part of the door. So now we are going to cut the factory input right here and crimp it, and then connect those right there.
And again, that factory input we're referring to came from the tweeter. Alright everybody, we've got the crossover network ready to roll. This bit is going to be very tough to film because we're going to basically have to put the door panel on, but we're also going to have to stuff this into the door panel, and the location where I'm putting that is going to be right kind of, I wish I could show you better, but it's right about here. Oh, you guys can't even see that. Right about here. And the way I'm going to do that is a plethora of double-sided tape and duct tape, because this is too thin to drill a hole, and that would be the ideal situation. But in this door panel, there's not a lot of space for me to do that. So I'm going to have to kind of rig something up, but it's going to be very tough to show that, well, you know, having the tweeter wired in and putting the door panel back. You guys are just going to have to trust me on that. This is where, in my opinion, it does become a two-man job. Alright guys, this is where we're at now. We're going to do a quick test again, just to make sure that everything's okay before we button it up. I chose to put my crossover network right here in this groove, as you can see. And that way, wherever you put it, it can't go past that black thing. But it's very tricky. I would put it here just where I did. Again, I used some double-sided tape as well as a lot of duct tape, as you can see. So now it's just a matter of connecting everything back up and buttoning up the door panel. Alright guys, everything is all buttoned up and it's done, and we've successfully installed a set of DB6501 6.5 component speakers with a crossover network and a DC4 or a DC2 1993 to 2001 Acura Integra. I was thinking Honda there. Honda Integra or Acura Integra. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it really helps somebody gain the confidence that they can go ahead and do this. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. Subscribe for more Acura content. And as always, Blazing Tech, and we will catch you on the next one.